That is the name of your mother.
Shamala. So the Y is silent, Shamala.
Shamala.
Yeah.
What was her name? Shamala
Gopalan.
Gopala.
Uh-huh.
Tell us about your mom. Or as you call her, Mommy.
Mommy. We always called her Mommy. I'm not embarrassed to say she is Mommy. And she is, in many ways, the reason I wrote the book. My sister Maya is here. My mother's, one of her best friends from college is here, Lenore Pomerantz, who I write about in the book. And my mother was a force of nature, a real force of nature. She is someone who, all 5 feet of her, if you met her after you walked away, you would have thought she was 7 feet tall. My mother was a truth teller. She spoke the truth. She was probably the smartest, toughest, and most loving person I have ever known. She raised her daughters with a belief that we could do and be anything. She taught us, that, don't let people tell you who you are. You tell them who you are. She was a scientist, a breast cancer researcher. She had 2 goals in her life, to end breast cancer and to raise her 2 daughters. And she would take us to the lab with her. I'd go after school on the weekends. And being around scientists, one of the things that I realize now, early in my life, I learned was that one should see what can be, unburdened by what has been. Because that is what science is about. It's the pursuit of those things that will improve the condition of life, that will solve problems, that will make things better. And that's why I'm naturally attracted to also anything that is about innovation, understanding that innovation, we do it not because we're bored with things the way they've been, but because we should always be in pursuit of being more efficient, more effective, more relevant. And that's who she is and was.
Your father, Donald
Yes.
Harris, also an immigrant,
Yes.
born in Jamaica,
Yeah.
an economics professor at Stanford.
Correct.
And let's keep in mind, she comes from some brainiac parents. Your mom got her PhD the year you were born.
Correct.
Just put that out there. So now your dad comes to the United States from Jamaica.
Yeah. My father was equally brilliant, and is. He was a national scholar in Jamaica. He earned his way and up and out and came to the United States and to Berkeley to study economics. And my parents met when they were active in the civil rights movement. And it's an interesting story, Jonathan, because as you note, my mother graduated college when she was 19. And
what did I tell you?
she did, and so she, so she said to my grandfather, who was one of the freedom fighters in India for India's independence, and my mother was the eldest of 4 children. She was the oldest, and a girl, obviously. And she said to my grandparents she wanted to study science, and she wanted to go to what was considered to be one of the best schools, and that was UC Berkeley. And my grandparents looked at her and said, okay, we will put you on a plane to a place you've never been at 19 years old. This was in, I think, 1959.
Wow.
So this young woman, got on a plane, encouraged by her parents, to go and pursue her dream. Now, the backstory is also that it was fully expected she would get that degree and go back and have a good arranged marriage. But of course, my mother, having been raised and being who she was just naturally, when she got to Berkeley, was immediately attracted to the civil rights movement.
Why do you think?
And that's where she met my father.
Okay, why do you think that was?
But I want to say,
Yeah.
she met my father and decided to have a love marriage, and a marriage based on love, which I believe is the ultimate act of optimism. Right?
So to the question that I interrupted your your statement with, why do you think she was so attracted to the civil rights movement?
She was raised, and we growing up would go back to India like every other year, and so I know the family that raised her because they helped raise us. And it was always about fighting for independence. It was about fighting for justice. It was about fighting to make sure that all people had a say in their future, in their government, an equal say. And that was in her blood. And of course, that's what the civil rights movement was about, and the free speech movement. And there are some funny stories. I was just sharing with someone backstage. You know, so I witnessed this, as I write about in the book, you know, from my stroller's eye view. And there's a funny family story about how, so my mother's marching with the extended family. I talk about, like, Aunt Mary and Uncle Freddie in the book. And she would tell the story about how, so they're marching. And this is back when strollers didn't really have armrests and seatbelts. So they're marching away and, you know, shouting and all of that. And then I think it was my Uncle Freddie, you know, looked down and looked in the stroller, which was empty, and said, "Where's Kamala?" And apparently they left me like a block behind. I'd fallen out the stroller. There you go. And then my mother would tell a funny story about how, like, one day and I was fussing, and you know, and so I'm fussing and fussing. It's much cuter when she would tell the story, but she'd say, so then she would look down at me and, "Kamala, what do you want? What do you want?" And I looked back up at her and I said, "Freedom."
I'm so glad you told that story on your own, because I was going to ask you, because I wanted to hear you say freedom.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to talk about your father, economics professor, Stanford. They meet at Berkeley. They have you and Maya, and you loved going to the park.
Yes.
And your mom would, correct me if I'm wrong, would put limits on you in terms of, like, how far you could go, whatever. And your dad would say to you, "Run, run, Kamala, run."
That's right. He would say, "Do not be afraid. Let her go. Let her go. Let her run. You run as fast as you can. You run as far as you want." And I believe that his whole purpose was to say, do not be afraid, and be fearless, and run, and run. And do not be afraid of falling. Do not let anybody stop you. Yeah.